Well, it's one of those rare moments on the allotment at the moment when it's not absolutely blowing a gale, or there's nobody trimming or mowing or chainsawing, so I can actually do a tour. Right, so first up are the Brussels sprouts. Looking pretty good actually, quite pleased with those. I really need to get this net off now though and get some support stakes in. Just got to find somewhere to put that netted tunnel for a few weeks. And down here we've got the red cabbages, all starting to heart up nicely now, so I'm really pretty pleased with those. They're looking lovely. I don't want them all hearting up because these need to last me until August, or middle of August probably. But yeah, really happy with them at the moment. And these down here, these are even further on. Here's my main crop beetroot. I've got some more beetroot just about to germinate, and they're going to go on Debbie's plot. But that is the beetroot that should keep us going for most of the year. Unlike, unfortunately, these shallots. I had this same issue last year, all going to seed. So these are one of the rare things that I actually do from sets, and I'm not going to do them anymore because 2 years running, most of them have gone to seed, and it's just not worth it for me. I'm just going to stick with Zabun and long red Florence and things like that from seed for next year, but I did want to try it out and see how they went. Not good. So down here I've got my Yacon, and I've just transplanted that one in there. The others have been in a little bit longer. Some of them are doing better than others, you know, weaker tubers, but I think they're all going to pull through. And obviously you can see around here I've had lots of spinach, and I decided just to leave it in, see if I could get one more cut off it, but trimmed the tops off just because it was overwhelming the Yacon. Then down here we've got the gooseberries. Quite pleased with these gooseberries, looking nice. And then down here we've got potatoes. These have really got bashed around. There's loads of breakages on the stems from the storms that we had last week, but I'm not too worried about them. You know, they are flowering now, so hopefully we've got some decent tubers in there. I'm leaving them in for a while because I've got loads of other potatoes. You'll see them in a minute, but eventually I will be planting my purple sprouting broccoli all the way down here after these broad beans and after these potatoes are finished. So that will probably be at the middle of July, something like that. Purple sprouting broccoli is looking pretty good at the moment, so yeah, I'm excited to get those planted, and I'll have those green low tunnels over these until they get to about the same size as those Brussels sprouts were, and I'll take them off and put support stakes in and hope for the best. Just today put the final nets onto these carrots, and I don't know if you're a regular viewer, you'll remember me reseeding a few little gaps, and most of those actually germinating quite nicely now, so I'm not going to take the nets off, but yeah, looking pretty good. It's strange really, the camera doesn't seem to be able to see through the net very well, whereas my eyes can see through really well. They're looking pretty good. Down here I've got my Sarpa Mira and Sarpa Una, I think. These are the main crop potatoes, and they're looking quite nice. I've actually put Strulch on this bed, mainly because this bed is one of the ones that I had really terrible problems with slugs, so I will obviously be taking this bed out in sort of September time and getting it all replanted, and when I replant it I really don't want slug problems, so I thought if I put Strulch down on here, hopefully it will reduce the slug population no end and make for a more successful harvest in winter. But it's looking pretty lush, so just a few more potatoes in containers here, And as I'm harvesting the potatoes in the containers, I'm using the same compost, just reconditioned with a bit of bloodfish and bone, and planting carrots in those. I've got apples, cherry, with very few actual cherries on it. In fact, maybe even no cherries on it this year, but I have got some cherry trees doing really well. This cherry tree is a bit unpredictable. It's still young and it's not cropping consistently year after year. And another apple tree here. I've got a few blueberries. Oh, of course, the elephant garlic all the way down here. It's looking pretty good. I don't take these off because I just love to let them flower. They just look so beautiful. Blueberries down here. And I've got 3 beds like this full of peppers. Mostly looking pretty good. There are a few peppers forming on here. They're a bit behind where I normally am with peppers, but they're still doing pretty good because I've got loads of really great peppers that are really far on in the greenhouse. So this year I haven't really pushed my timescales on these. I've just taken it relaxed and safe, and yeah, they're cropping pretty well. A few little Savoy cabbages there, really just fill in the gap until these red cabbages are ready, and you can see they're not very far off. So 2 weeks harvest off those and these red cabbage should be ready. So these are my midsummer and early autumn carrots, and they're looking pretty nice. I'm really quite pleased with those. I think these are baby sugar snacks. I've just tried some of them actually from some of my containers, and they were really nice. So I'm really looking forward to those. Here's my carrots. So they're up high on top of my IBC tanks. I've harvested these 2 pretty much. I've still got these 2 tubs, so 2-3 weeks of harvest out of those tubs. These are my October sown carrots, so they're looking a bit rough, but these are my spring sown carrots. The ones we'll be eating over summer, and they're looking pretty great. And then all the way around my little seating area, I've got potatoes. The reason I've got so many potatoes on the allotment this year is because I haven't really got very many at home, just because I've been building work and there wasn't any space for them. But wrapped around my seating area, which one day will provide a nice little windbreak and a bit of privacy. Not that I need any privacy, but yeah, just making use of the structure. I've got French and runner beans around here, tomatoes around the back, and sweet dumpling squash down here. And they're all looking really rough because it's just been so windy and cold and horrible. And unfortunately, it was looking quite nice when I planted them out. But that's the way of it this year. The weather has been so unbelievably unpredictable. I've got a few peas down here, straggly ones. I'm not really paying much attention to them because my new crop peas are almost ready at home. So we're pleased to get these out. So I'm basically just leaving them so I can just let a few of them dry for next year's seed. I've got a few onions there. Most of the onions are on Debbie's plot and looking quite nice. And we've got about 10-20 onions left in store, but not worried about it at all now because obviously these onions in the asparagus bed are looking really great. Not many of them pulled through winter, but the ones that did are looking really strong. So I've got some red onions that are not quite ready yet, but you know, just a handful there of really lovely tough ball white onions, which will see us through until probably the middle of July, and by that time the red onions will be ready. Notice I have let the asparagus grow on, and so that will probably condition when I take those onions out, because pretty soon this bed will be just completely overwhelmed with asparagus, and by then the onions will have gone. So as regular viewers will know, we've been eating fresh potatoes since April. This is my next batch that'll keep me going for the next few weeks until those over there already. And I've got some, these are my ever-bearing strawberries, just the first ones starting to ripen there. And last couple of solitary cauliflowers. We've had cauliflowers for a long time, again since April, and at this point I stopped growing brassicas really on my plot, flowering brassicas, so just don't have enough space to do all of them, and I switched to Debbie's plot for the flowering brassicas. Around here again on this frame I've got more squash. These are all crown prince all around here, and got some more potatoes at the back there. Let's just have a look at those. These are the purple ones, as you can see. There's a lovely purpley tinge to the leaves there, and they're growing pretty well, pretty high. I had to put some supports up on those. And these are the early baking potatoes, so hopefully by the time we get to July, so that's what, 3 weeks away, something like that, those will be ready, and they are just starting to flower, so that's a pretty good sign. We have had some Winston actually, baking potatoes. Those were reasonable, but we're hoping for some really nice baking potatoes in those tubs, and by the time we've finished with those, the main crop baking potatoes should be ready. Here, these are my second early strawberries. So I've been picking these for a while now, two weeks I think, and they're cropping really well. You probably can't see because the foliage is so lush, and I can't show you because I'm holding the top open, but anyway, yeah, they're looking nice. And let's just have a look at the polytunnel strawberries. They've all been taken out now, and I am just going to trim all the tops off those. Normally I compost them, but actually they've survived the polytunnel experience pretty well because it's not been a very hot spring. But they're finished harvesting now, so I'm just going to cut them back, and I'm going to see if I can keep them going as healthy plants into winter. And if I can, I think I might just leave them in there and try them out next year, rather than just composting and faffing around with new runners and everything. I've got a few lettuce down here. This is one of the lettuce beds we're picking from right now, and then more squash. These are crown prince. And then here, just outside the polytunnel, I've got my little sort of fruit snack bar. I've got one of my favourites, tomatoes down there, strawberries down here, gooseberries, red gooseberries, guava berries, things like that. And I will have a blueberry down here soon. So yeah, it's just trying to make use of the space, right, really. So let's have a look underneath all these low tunnels and cold frames. So under this one we've got peppers. Again, some nice sized peppers here on all the plants really, some decent peppers, but as I say, much better ones in the greenhouse. More peppers in here, and then all the other covers hide melons. And some of them are looking pretty rough because they've just been planted out. So just planted that one and that one, and I ran out of strulch and I ran out of halos, so I just cut the bottom off some pots and used those instead, just to hold the strulch back. Some of the melons are looking a little bit better, but not a lot better because of the weather. Same story here. Just they're growing, but very slowly and very weak. The last bed, again, very slow and very weak, desperate for some sunshine. Last thing outside is the raspberries, the summer fruiting raspberries. Lots of raspberries on here. They're not looking great, but I did only put them in last year, so yeah, there's a lot of improvement still to come with those. So I think next we'll just have a quick skim through the polytunnel, which is also not looking great, but that is what it is. So we'll show you how it's going. So yeah, what's the kind of big picture in here? So down here I've got all my main crop tomatoes, and yeah, they're not very far on, but we are eating tomatoes now. We've been eating tomatoes for the last 2 weeks from the greenhouse, so not really in any rush to get those tomatoes going. I've just put these little paving slabs in here just so I can put my feet on them, so I can more easily kind of manage and prune and harvest and everything from the tomatoes. These are my early beetroots. I've taken all the tops off those now because they've grown big enough, and so I want to stall the growth and just grow some nice new leaves. Down here I've got my second early tomatoes, and these are just starting to come ripe now, so we've got just enough tomatoes at the moment to eat fresh, but we're just right on the verge basically. Like if we have a cold week, we don't quite get enough ripening each week, so hopefully once these start ripening we'll be in tomato abundance. Certainly a lot of flowers on these, and actually a reasonable number of actual tomatoes, so I'm pretty pleased with the way these are coming. My outdoor tomatoes are still, they've got a few tomatoes on them, but yeah, they're not coming on very well. These are my early melons, and I've got 4 beds of melons that I've just showed you, so this is the 5th bed effectively, and I'm hoping if I've done it right they'll all come in succession, because you know they don't keep very well. So I've got my first little fruit there. So I've got a mix of honeydews, cantaloupes and watermelons down there, and then I've got my main crop courgettes down there, which are not, well, they're just starting to fruit actually. I've got some celery in here, early celery in theory, but it got a bit overwhelmed by the calabrese. I've got 2 cucumbers in the corners, but I've got plenty of cucumbers in the greenhouse that we're harvesting at the moment, so again I'm not in any rush really for these, which is good because they're slow. French beans looking awful. I honestly don't know what happens to French beans in this polytunnel. They always get this kind of disease on the leaves, sort of virus infection, I think, and it's a bit of a pain. I keep trying. I've tried a few years to see whether different watering regimes or fertilizers or whatever will help, or not fertilizing at all, and it never does. They always seem to just get this virus, so I think it's just an endemic to this polytunnel now, so I'm not going to grow French beans here, but I'm harvesting French beans now from the greenhouse, so again doesn't really matter very much. And these are my second early courgettes. I've been harvesting these for a few weeks now, and they're okay, just getting in the way of the tomatoes a bit, so I'll have to sacrifice these plants soon, I think. And I think that's it. So I hope you like this quick video. My name's Steve. This is the Seaside Kitchen Garden and Allotment channel. I'll see you soon.